What's up, Pleasantville? We have to talk about the Pleasantville Panthers football team. They are now 12-0 and going to the state finals at the Carrier Dome in Syracuse. The team is so excited, and so is the village. They have been working so hard to win this championship, just like they did in 2017. The game starts at noon, so bundle up and fill up your car and go. The Pleasantville Puzzle Hunt was a great success last weekend. I saw so many people out looking for clues. It was super challenging, even for my puzzle-loving daughter, and even my pug Hamlet found a couple of clues. This week, we're focusing on the home. Not home is where the heart is, although that's important. Pleasantville has experienced a huge uptick in home renovations during the pandemic. And in a bit, you'll see my interview with Robert Hughes, Pleasantville's very own building inspector. But first, in addition to new construction, many people are retrofitting their properties to be more eco-friendly. We had the privilege to visit the spectacular home of the Shiner family, where I had a really interesting chat with Frank Shiner, who explained all about their new eco-friendly geothermal heating and cooling system. Check it out. What's up, Pleasantville? I am here with my friend Frank Shiner, and we're in his basement. And he just switched his entire property to using geothermal. And since we believe in saving the planet and doing everything we can for it, I thought you might be interested in knowing what process that you went through to make it happen. I really don't understand geothermal at all. Can you kind of explain to me what it is?
I had an old heat system with 4 boilers and 1,000 gallons of oil and 12 AC condensers and a bunch of air handlers all over the house, and they were starting to give out. And I started to look at the cost to replace them, and made a couple of phone calls and found out about geothermal. But then I found out there's air-sourced geothermal, which you still need oil to back it up. And then I made a call to my friend Kathy Hoffman, who works with Atlantic, and they're only commercial, but she put me in touch with somebody that does true geothermal. So we have no oil on the property.
That's
the 1,000 gallons of oil and the tank have been removed, and now we're on pure geothermal. So there are 6 400-foot geothermal wells dug into my yard.
Well, at least we'll take a look at the yard and know where they are.
Yeah. So this entire area was trenched, and just 2 months ago, it was a big pit, and 6 400-foot wells dug here. And within 7 days after that, we leveled it out, threw some grass seed down, and you don't even know they're there anymore. So now they stay underground, and you don't even know they exist. These 2 very large, variable speed, very powerful pumps are pumping water to 6 400-foot outside wells through these 6 pipes, 3 in and 3 out. And it's constantly circulating all of that fluid from underground through this crawl space that has been here since the house was built, and these pipes are drilled right through the foundation. This cement pad right here is where I used to have 4 oil boilers that made a racket and smelled badly. They've been completely removed. They were fed by a 1,000-gallon oil tank outside. They're replaced now with 2 geothermal units. These 2 are specifically for my domestic hot water and for the radiator system in the house. So these 2 tanks over here are holding about 200 gallons of hot water that circulate through the radiator system in the house. We also have forced air, but this is just the radiator system. And then the domestic hot water has about 80 gallons on hold here. And the nice thing about this is it splits the demand. So once the hot water is satisfied, this will switch over and help make hot water for the radiator system, so it's much more efficient and much more on call. The ground temperature after a certain number of feet down is always 55 degrees. Wow, okay. So they're utilizing that constant temperature, and that water's coming up here, it's going through the air handlers. It's either getting superheated or super cooled, depending on what season it is, and then the difference is sent back down underground, and these wells are 6 feet apart, 15 feet apart, and it either superheats or super cools the rock in that area, and then it stores it like a thermal battery, and then retrieves it when it needs it the next season.
That's incredible.
So it's just absolutely unbelievable.
So in the summer, that air handler takes the cold and pumps it through your house. So it's nice, a nice 70 degrees all the time.
Right.
And it separates the heat down into the ground.
Right.
That's so cool.
Because what do we have now? People have condensers outside fighting 98-degree weather and trying to cool the gas and send it all the way up inside the house. Well, that happens right at the unit now. And instead of the heat being poured out into the atmosphere like it is outside your house now, wasted, totally outside, blowing hot air outside, it's superheating that water and sending it back down underground to heat the rock, the surrounding rock.
Right.
So it's storing it.
And then it'll stay there for like 6 months or something until you need the heat?
Because it's 55 degrees under there, so nothing's fighting it. They could heat that rock up to quite a nice temperature, and it'll hold because there's nothing fighting against it.
That's incredible. So then I'm sure everyone would want to know the sort of the cost benefit of doing it. Obviously it's good for the environment because you're using natural resources that are, you're not taking away any natural resources.
And you know, clean air, clean water, that was of course very important to me, but it would not have been cost effective if it weren't for the rebates. In our area, they just doubled the rebates. So I did the cost analysis with the tax breaks and the rebates from Con Edison. It covered about 2/3 of the project.
That's incredible.
I would not have been able to do it. It would have been just not cost effective had they not done that.
Right.
And so I figured out, between not buying oil, between not having to repair my old system, between the spike in oil now, and when I factor all that in, minus the rebates, I'm at about a 5-year break even, which is certainly tolerable because I would have had to do my old
you would have had to fix that anyway.
Exactly.
And then who knows what part of that was going to break again. I mean, that was so complicated anyway.
Exactly.
This is all brand new.
Right.
It's definitely going to last longer than 5 years.
Yes. And before the rebates, I was looking at 11 to 15 years, and I wouldn't have done it.
Wow.
I'd like to say that I'm passionate about, but you know, you have to be practical. You have to be practical. You know, family budget.
And I think that that's something, honestly, you know, we can thank the government for actually, doing their part to encourage people to do stuff like this.
Right. And you know, we're burning no fossil fuels now. Now, we are using electricity, but I want to be really clear. We're using far less electricity in the summertime because you're not running all those air conditioner condensers.
Right.
And you're using a little bit more in the wintertime, but you're not burning fuel.
Right.
So it works out to be more cost effective.
Like the carbons and stuff that are going into the atmosphere from the condensers and all that stuff, right? It was so
and just the soot you have to deal with. I mean, my chimneys were getting black, and you see stuff coming down here where it's all gone now. You know, and there's no smell, there's no oil, there's you know. So
it really does feel just the perfect temperature. It's very moderate. It's so nice, and then outside it's freezing.
Well, I mean, you've got an big old house with high ceilings, and you would think 70 degrees is 70 degrees, and it's really not. I mean, geothermal is different in a sense because it truly conditions the air, whereas with the old system, we all know it. You know, it's in the summertime and it gets warm, and then the air conditioner kicks on and hits you with a blast of air. Or in the wintertime, you start to get chilly, and then it blasts you, and then you're hot.
Well, so true.
Right, and they're saying set it and forget it on geothermal. 70 degrees, it just stays at 70 degrees. You never have those fluctuations.
That's amazing.
And it just feels like a warm blanket around you all winter long.
No, it just feels very comfortable. It's so funny because I think about that at our house where, oh my gosh, I'm like, turn down the heat to my family because they're freezing in their part of the house, and I'm roasting in mine. So for something this expansive with the ceilings, I'm just shocked that it actually feels so good. I mean, honestly, your house it's so beautiful, and I just love it. And it's so it's big, but it's cozy also, and gets me in the holiday spirit.
Is it time for shameless plugs?
Let's do some shameless plugs. But you are a very generous guy, and you're doing all these amazing shows that are coming up, and I really do feel like we should plug them because they're not only for good causes, but they're also fun, and families get to go and be together and listen to music. And please tell us. My organization, Frank Shiner Music, is 100% charity. Every dollar that comes in from an album sale, a show,
merchandise, anything, all goes out in some way to some form of charity. And we are doing now 3 big shows that I'm excited about. I'll tell you the furthest away is at the Sheen Center on Bleecker Street. It's called Christmas on Bleecker. I'm the host and I'm singing, and it has Vanessa Williams, Norm Lewis, Darius DeHaas, Tony Danza, and I can go on. It's a star-studded cast.
Fine.
We're really excited about it. That's December 14th at 7:30 at the Sheen Center, Sheen, on Bleecker Street. And then I have 2.
How do they get tickets for that? Is there a website?
You could go to frankshiner.com and it pops right up.
Perfect.
Or you could go to the Sheen Center and get it. Also, Orchestra 914 just had its debut that I performed in, and I'm doing their Christmas show with them, and that's going to be on December 2nd and December 5th. Now, December 2nd is at the beautiful Paramount Theater in Peekskill, where we just were, right?
Yeah.
And then the December 5th is going to be at St. John's Church. That's Pleasantville.
Also beautiful, yes.
And so I'm going to be doing the night before Christmas.
Different style of venue, but both, it's going to be so lovely for both.
Yes.
Night before Christmas, oh my
Yeah,
God.
to music, to the whole orchestra. It's going to,
Wow.
it's quite challenging, so I
bet.
hope I don't mess up.
Oh, you know what? You're such a pro. It'll be great.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Thank you so much.
More.
And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays,
Happy holidays,
Hanukkah,
Happy
whatever.
Thanksgiving,
Happy
all of it, yes.
Happy family time. So
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for this.
For
Thank you.
coming.
I appreciate it.
It was really wonderful.
My pleasure. Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks. That's it.
It was so much fun getting to see that house and all of the fabulous history. Frank and Suzanne have been real stewards of the property by not only maintaining the home's original grandeur, but also updating it with modern eco-friendly amenities. They do so much good for the community. You definitely should check out Frank's website. His performances are always great fun and support worthy causes. So I highly recommend going on Sunday to one of the holiday shows at St. John's Church, either at 4 o'clock or just added 6:30. Frank will be there along with Russell Gurr and Orchestra 914. And get tickets for the star-studded holiday fundraiser in the city on December 14th, benefiting the Sheen Center. Now, as promised, Pleasantville's building inspector, Robert Hughes. Hey, so I'm here with Robert Hughes, the building inspector for Pleasantville, and I think that it's going to be a valuable discussion for all of you who own your property in the village to kind of get to know him a little bit and see the process of what it's like to actually do construction, or why we have the building codes. So Robert, can you explain what a building inspector does?
We probably would need a few hours, but certainly I could try to sum it up, is that my job basically for the village and my staff is to kind of facilitate the codes that have been created by New York State from the building codes and the village regulations with regards to zoning and anything in the village code. So we're actually here to facilitate what has been created and guide the residents and tenants and all property owners through the process. That's really what it is, to kind of sum it up in a simply, quickly, and as easy as possible without elaborating too much, because there's a lot of details.
Sure. Do you agree with most of the codes?
Majority, yes. I don't agree with all. That would be something that outside of what I'm doing day to day, I would pursue if I really felt against something. But I do. I think the majority of the codes, there's a reasoning behind them. It takes time to go through the history sometimes, and I do that to find out why something was created so I can explain it and understand it myself. But I would say so. Yeah, I do agree with the majority, but not all.
And what do you think the reason for codes in general? Like, people, I don't think people really understand why we have building codes.
Well, there's a distinction between building codes, which is actually dealing with the construction part, and village codes, which deals with the day-to-day, usages on a property, a lot of different things that are the day-to-day of a municipality. But yes, all codes were created generally for a reason. Building codes for life and fire safety, and energy code, more important than ever today with the world and everything, and trying to make sure that these structures are are not creating further issues with the environment, you know, keeping houses better protected against kind of loss of fossil fuel and your heat going out your windows and out your roof, basically.
You don't want to waste it.
Correct. And village codes with regards to the day-to-day, property owners kind of in their neighborhoods and the usage and how they're well kept or managed. And, you know, so you're kind of keeping a little bit of control, and I hate using that word control, but kind of keeping it in place of where, you know, what is happening in each district or in each area, so you just don't have a complete mix of everything going on. But there's various codes that can come into play that can be from stormwater management to wetlands to flood zones to environmental tree ordinance. You know, there's so many different things that can come into play in different municipalities, the reasons why they're in place. I always tell people the codes are generally not proactive, they're reactive. Something has happened that they kind of had a chance to think about and say, maybe we need to implement a code to be better prepared for this situation going forward.
Right. Well, especially too with the climate change and things like that are happening with, you know, the extra rains that was supposed to be a 100-year flood, but next thing you know, it's every 2 years or every, you know, we just don't know like what happened the last time.
So exactly. Most municipalities are always thinking of the effect on the cost, a cost for residents, a cost for the municipality, taxpayers' money. So anytime they can really look at trying to minimize that, they do so. And, you know, sometimes people can look at it and codes can be a bit overbearing. I don't disagree, but, you know, they have to start somewhere. And different towns are led by the residents that are voted in. So, you know, if you get people with a certain mindset, of course they're going to pursue that part of it a little bit stronger. And I'm here 7 years, and, you know, the 5 board members, including the mayor, the only person remaining that hired me is the mayor. So over a 7-year period, you've already had the entire board change out. So you always get a different perspective. And, you know, not everyone's going to agree with that perspective, of course, but, you know, that's the way it goes. They're the ones that decided to have their voice heard. So, of course, they're going to pursue that aspect. But I do think anything to do with, you know, the changing of the climate, the impact on the residents, you know, anytime they can try to pursue it to where it can help and make it the situation a little bit better, that'll always be the case. They'll always try to do that.
Well, and then they also have the opportunity for a variance or something different, like if there's something that they feel that is unfair or outdated, you know, they can go to you for that as well.
Absolutely. That's the whole point from a perspective of a variance. But, you know, New York State even has variances for building codes because they know that they're not going to cover every scenario. So from zoning variances to building code variances, there's always a scenario that you might have a hardship that why you can't meet the code. And that path is always in place for you. Same thing with the village code.
So even like a financial hardship or something that why you can't meet the code. Is
Sure. We've had variances on places of business where they went to New York State because they couldn't physically, and the cost would have been excessive to provide 2 separate, independent, accessible bathrooms. And the state understands it. Now, you'll always have to probably implement something else. You know, difference from a zoning variance that just gets granted without conditions. A building code variance usually has a condition. You usually have to provide something in addition. But you can also seek a change from the Board of Trustees sometimes. So, you know, the Board of Trustees who created and who vote on the village codes, you know, you can always seek opinion from them and potentially alter for something because you have a hardship that occurred. And, you know, that's exactly right with the variance process. That is in place because they know that when a code is created, it's just not going to cover for every scenario.
You mentioned hardship. How do you think the pandemic has really affected the change in even the amount of construction? Were you kind of prepared for what ended up happening?
No, I don't think any municipality was prepared when this was first happening, 2020, March. Majority of municipalities, and specific to us, was anticipating a slowdown. I just think that was inevitable. It was a natural thinking that, you know, homeowners would, you know, not know the unknown or whether employment, just general life, you know, you tend to, when something happens that's catastrophic in a sense, you tend to pull back. And the complete opposite has happened. And it's
crazy.
absolutely amazing, because I don't think we really foresaw how people were going to make an adjustment in their lifestyle. Working from home, being home more hours, having the kids home. You look back now and say, oh, of course. But at the time, nobody could foresee that. But absolutely, we've probably been the busiest, from the building department's perspective, that we've ever been in my 7 years, by far. I think interest rates have a lot to do with that. The low interest rates, that's always going to be a kind of a thing that pushes things, but the pandemic did as well, because we saw an increase of a lot of projects on properties that had to do with patios, decks, things that were increasing the lifestyle or helping the people function better at their property because they were there and using it more often, trying to create separate offices, a lot of those things. And then just actually maybe because they were around it and using it more, wanting to actually finally get to their kitchen renovation, get to their bathroom renovations. And that was a big change in, positive in the sense that, it's always good when property owners are improving their property.
Of course.
Just difficult for us because of the busyness.
Our property value.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, my entire street, everybody's under construction.
Yes,
on Guyon, it's nuts.
We found that in my 7 years, it's interesting that it seems as if streets go under renovations at the same time. Could it be coincidence, or could it be that the neighbors are kind of having conversations or seeing what's happening at their neighbors, and then they finally decide, let's do this. But yes, that does occur. Guyon Street has probably been your busiest of any streets that have happened in the past.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But I will say that it's a good chance that there's something going on in some capacity on every property on every street in Pleasantville, to some extent. That's what it seems like, whether it's a house sale, people putting a fence up, people doing more extensive renovation.
Right.
Quite possibly every street has had something going on in the last year and a half.
Why do you think people are so afraid of building inspectors? I mean, you did mention something about handcuffs.
Well, personally, I think it's just maybe the general perception of government in general. That's the first hurdle. The second hurdle is that, fear of the unknown. They're not really knowing what we do and why we're here. I also fault a lot of the people, my colleagues, that I think you need to be engaging with people. I think you have to understand why you're here, and your job is to help, period. That's it. The codes are secondary. That's what you're doing. But you got to guide people through and make them understand why things are in place, and the purpose behind it. And I always found that if I can educate people, they understand it a bit better. They may not agree with it, but at least they understand the process. I mean, I'm a homeowner, and I get it. I don't live in Pleasantville, but I try to put myself in their shoes. How do you feel going to a counter? Do you feel rejected or assisted? And that's simply what it is. It's simply answering the phone and making people feel comfortable. Because I also think they're nervous. They never did this, and they don't want to say the wrong thing, and you're trying to guide them through. And I always use their joke. I don't carry handcuffs. I'm not here to arrest you. It's not a criminal offense. This is rectifiable. But I'm trying to guide you through the process and educate you, because I do think a lot of people may not know that they even need a building inspector. And why would you blame them? Here you're excited about doing a kitchen renovation, and you're thinking about cost, and you're thinking about all the aesthetics of it, and then all of a sudden, I got to call the building inspector. And all of a sudden you have this, what feels like a downer. And I'm like, well, no, we're here to maybe assist and be part of the solution. But I do believe that, generally speaking, it's just because of maybe a perspective on government in general, that you almost look at it as, that guy's going to tell me stop, don't pass, here it is, and trying to maybe break that barrier to get people to see beyond that.
That you're here actually to help them, and
then
keep them safe, and to make sure that the fence that they install doesn't then cause debris and water flooding in the neighbor's yard, or
doesn't end up on your neighbor's property, or you're compliant with zoning. Because I do believe, as you said earlier with a question, do I agree with with codes? Well, yes. You have the in every municipality, you have what seems like everything seems to work. Well, the codes are doing that. It's just that it's not so obvious. And
you don't realize
it's after the fact. The reason things are working in harmony at times is that's the reason. I think if you didn't have it, you probably would have chaos. And you would have so many different things that you wouldn't have it. Now, there might be a majority of people that prefer that. Maybe they do. But there's a history of maybe things working well together.
So people apply for a permit. They turn in their plans from their architect or engineer. Then you do the plan check.
Correct.
And then they start building. and then you go in between for the inspections for whatever it is. What's like the most common violation that people don't even realize, like changing out a toilet, or that they need a permit for? Like super, like really basic that they don't realize.
Well, the hardest thing is that, so what ends up happening is when people want to do something on their house, really the first thing is to call the building department to kind of understand, do I even need a permit for that?
Right.
And I tell people, unfortunately, the majority of things today you're going to require a permit for various reasons. And it's not necessarily always have to do with construction part of it. So what ends up happening is, depending on what they want to do, we get the application, we tell them what they need to fill out, but we're really looking initially to say, where does that application need to go? Does it need to go to Public Works? Does it need to go for stormwater review? Does it need to go to Planning Commission for wetlands review? Are there FEMA flood zone issues? Is there a zoning issue? So we're actually facilitating and looking at so many different items that, unbeknownst to the applicant, of just trying to make sure that we're putting it in the right path of review. And then if it's simply just a building permit, or after you've gotten those review and then you're with the building permit, we review the application to make sure you are compliant with actually the building code in a sense, and then issue that permit and then go out to inspections. So I don't know if there's, say, violations, but the biggest probably thing that they overlook is the impact on those other items. They're looking at it that it's an unnecessary step, or I just have to get through this process. Here, let me file that permit for my boiler. And meanwhile, we're finding out that your property's in a flood zone and that boiler now has to be raised above the flood zone for your protection, to try to have that investment last longer. So that's as simple as it, where most contractor owners are looking at it like, okay, I have to do this, let me just get through it, and not giving ample enough time or really putting value on our
the
review.
Process, right. I mean, I'm guilty of that too. I think that sometimes we think that it's just going to be this obstacle, and it's already there. Why would I have to raise it? I wouldn't even think about it, you know. But I do think that that you do seem accessible to me. And like as a final thing, what do you want the village to know about you guys? Like, what's your what if you could say it to all the people in the town? What do you want them to know?
Well, I think that a lot of people that had interaction with us and will know, and I think the people that don't, that's why I'm here today, to hopefully get a few more people on board and understand it. We're here to help you. And you know, I know a lot of people kind of look at it and say, yeah, right, but I say, well, let's go talk to the neighbors that have interaction with us. I just want people to understand that me personally here are actually here for you. I work for the people. I'm not going to tell you everything you want to hear. You know, obviously that's the case. I'm going to guide you through it, but I will be an open book and try to get you to the beginning stages of what you're trying to accomplish to the end stages as painless as possible, so you grasp what you have to do. But I'm here, and it's simple as just a question. We answer the phone, and if I'm not there, I tell people email me, because email's sometimes a little bit more efficient. I could be out in the field and seeing an email. But we will get back to you, and we will try to get back to you in a timely fashion, because we know what you're trying to accomplish is very important to you. I can't say, well, I'm busy with everything else. I understand that it is important to you. A simple fence on your property is important. You might have just talked with your relative or somebody the other day and said, let's do a fence, and you might be able to get that fence done within a week. Well, you do need a building permit for that for various reasons, but I'm going to try to facilitate that as quickly as possible, knowing that it benefits the village and the neighbors if you're improving your property. And that's the process. Just like the people understand that we're here to help. Give us a call. A simple phone call will do wonders in the process to ease everyone without having maybe that angst. And it is a process. It's going to be a little bumpy if you didn't anticipate it, but I would hope that after the fact you walk away feeling, wow, I'm glad this group and this department is here in the village for me. And that's the best thing I can ever say.
That's great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming, and I think that it was really informative.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Anytime.
Thanks, Robert. See, he's not so scary. It's his job to enforce the state and village codes. He doesn't write them, but he is hoping to make sure that the people of Pleasantville know that when they have ideas for changing their property, either inside or outside, he is approachable and accessible, and they will answer any of the questions you have regarding permits, state or village codes, and what the reasoning is behind them. So enjoy your week, check out the game, the holiday shows, and don't forget to shop and eat local. And remember, PCTV is your community voice.